What up, ladies and gentlemen? This is Chris B. Daniels once again on another episode of Show and Talk. And today we are going to continue our Beyond Belief Fact or Fiction series review. So, this is season 2, episode 8. And I gotta say, this episode right here was like one of the main episodes that I remember every story. Like, I remember them perfectly. And so far, this tops the last few. You know what I'm saying? So without further ado, we're going to get into the first story. So our first story is called Kirby, and it's about this tech guy. He works for the special effects company, and his boss is pretty much an asshole. So in the beginning, he's playing with this gorilla, like this mechanical gorilla that he created for a movie. You know what I'm saying? And so his boss comes in there and he starts basically, yelling at him and antagonizing him and all that just because he feels like that, this guy's taking his time working on this prop for the movie. You know what I'm saying? So then it goes from, basically yelling at the dude, telling him to hurry up and finish to just downright insulting him, right? Insulting him. So what happens is his boss leaves, and then the guy. What happened was the guy really did not want to give up this prop for the movie, so he took the motherboard home. That pretty much controlled the entire gorilla. The basically it controlled all the mechanics. But anyway, he took the motherboard home, and so later on that night, his boss comes back into the studio and sees that the gorilla, it works perfectly. Apparently it's working and there was nothing wrong with it. So his boss planned on firing this guy, the next day. And so, he's playing with the gorilla, just, making sure everything checks out so he can ship it off the next day. So when he turns the machine, when he shuts the gorilla down, the gorilla arm, what I'm saying, his arm is still moving. So the guy turns around and looks at the gorilla, and then next thing you know, it stands up, right, and it turns its attention towards the guy. So the guy, he's starting to get freaked out, and so there's like this stair ladder, these stairs. So he winds up, going up the stairs like these rolling steps or whatever. So he goes up the stairs because the gorilla somehow came to life without the motherboard. So the gorilla is shaking the stairs and everything, trying to get the guy, down, trying to get to the guy. And the guy's holding on for dear life. Like, the acting was perfect in this in this story. But eventually the guy falls to his death. He breaks his neck when he hits the floor. And the next day, the tech dude comes in and he's wondering what's going on. And he discovers that his boss was killed or whatever. So, you know, he goes over and he sees the gorilla by the steps. And he knew for a fact that he left the gorilla, in a different area. So, the episode end not episode, but the story ends with the guy just looking confused. You know what I'm saying? And then you can see the facial expression on the gorilla that it just did something wrong. You know what I'm saying? So that's how the story ends. And I give this story a perfect 10 because, like I said, when I saw this one as a kid, this shit freaked me out. I ain't even gonna lie to y'all. Like, this shit freaked me out, yo. I liked it though. But anyway, let's move on to our next story. It's called Dust. That's it. That's the name. Just Dust. Anyway, now hold on. Before we continue, I just gotta say the only thing that I could probably gripe about when it comes to this show was the title of the stories. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought it really wasn't much creativity to them, but it's a small gripe. It really doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? As long as the story is good. But anyway, the story is called Dust. So it's about these two guys, right? Every afternoon they go jogging. So they take a certain route. But on this day, the shorter guy, if you've seen this episode, you know what I'm talking about. But one of the guys, you know what I'm saying? He decides to take a different route. He just feels like, taking a different route that day. So they do, and then they come across this big ass house, and then they see this girl who's trying to get in because she locked herself out. So they walk up to her, and then they ask her, does she need help? And they discover that she left the keys on the table that's right next to the window, and she couldn't get the window open. So the one guy, who was trying to impress this girl, he winds up getting the window open, and he slides his arm in to get the key, and he hands it to her. So she goes into the house and they follow. So before they sit down on the couch, the girl comes back in with 3 cups of lemonade. Remember this now, 3 cups of lemonade. So, the guys are trying to talk to her, trying to make conversation, but you could tell something is off by the way she's looking at them because she's not saying much and she only speaks when she's spoken to. So, the guy asks her, what kind of music she listened to and all of that. And then she starts naming artists from like the 70s. And so the other guy that's with this dude, he's a little weirded out, you know what I mean? Because he could see that, she's not really, you know, she's not really social, and the way, like, just the facial expression on her face, just creeps this dude out. So right before they leave, the one guy, he tries to get her name, and all she says is, thanks again for helping me out. And she shuts the door in their face. So as they're walking and talking, the second guy, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? He's more on the head of what's going on. Like, he hits it on the head as far as her being creepy and, weird. So the first guy, he's telling him he loves that type of thing and all of that. I guess is a challenge for him or whatever. But the next day, they take that same route again. But this time, when they come up on the house, it's condemned. Like, it looks like the house was abandoned for years. So they're confused by this. And the second guy, think that maybe they took the wrong route because it's a guy boarding up the house or whatever. So he's trying to convince these boys that maybe they was in some other house, but the first guy wasn't having it. He knew that they were in that house the day before. So the guy that they was talking to, he had the key. And so he let him in to see that there was, nothing. I mean, the house would, I think it was still sort of furnished, but not really. Um, so when they walked in, everything was dusty, like the house has been sitting for decades. And so, the first guy, he's trying to figure out what's going on. So remember when I mentioned the lemonade earlier? They walk over to the coffee table that the drinks was sitting on, and it was 3 prints right there. And one of the prints faded away. And then the other guy that let him in, he told them he told them to come over to see the footprints on the floor, and they recognized the footprints to be theirs and hers, but her footprints disappeared, and that's what made all of them run out the house. And that was the end to that story right there. So I give this one a 9.5, but I gotta say, man, the first dude was kind of an idiot. You know what I'm saying? He didn't see the obvious. The second dude, he was trying to tell this dude that, there was something off about this girl. Like, I ain't even gonna lie to y'all. If I was talking to a girl, right, if she had the same facial expression that this girl in this story had, like not speaking, nothing, you know what I'm saying, and not answering the questions as if she didn't hear it, I'd be weirded out as well. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, this story was actually interesting to me. And like I said, it gets a 9.5. So, our third story. It's called Malibu Cop. In this one, it's about a cop trying to solve a murder on the beach where he resides. So, there's an investigation going on, and he's talking to all kinds of different people, and then eventually he comes across the woman's boyfriend, right? And so he's talking to her, trying to figure out, what happened to his girlfriend, and then the stuff that he was saying caused the boyfriend to become suspicious of the fact that he thinks now that this cop is accusing him of murder. And you know what I'm saying? You know how detectives are though, right? So the boyfriend, he decides to not talk to this guy no more without his lawyer. And so it's been, everything was getting to him, everything was stressful. So he goes home and his captain is trying to tell him, maybe you should take some days off because you've been working too hard or whatever. You know what I mean? But he gets home and he winds up laying down, taking a nap or whatever. And then he has this recurring dream where the same girl that got murdered, runs up to him on the beach. And then it's like from his perspective, he can see somebody holding the gun, holding the girl at gunpoint. And she notices the gun. And then the gun fires and it goes through, you know what I'm saying? And he shoots her or whatever. And then she falls upon his chest, you know what I'm saying? And then I guess right before she falls, she scratched him, you know what I'm saying? He has scratch marks or whatever. I don't know, but she fell into his chest and then hit the ground. So the guy wakes up from the nightmare. And so, you know, he's he was thinking or whatever because this is like a reoccurring thing to him. You know what I'm saying? And he goes into the room and he looks in the drawer and he sees a pair of socks with sand on them. And so now he's becoming suspicious of whatever is going on. And next thing you know, he takes off his shirt and he has these scratch marks on his chest. And he looks in the drawer and the shirt that he was wearing, I guess a few nights before that, had blood prints on it, from the scratches. And so now he's really suspicious of what's going on. And so he takes the bullet that was given to him, you know what I'm saying, to take the evidence that next day. And so what he decided to do was put one of his own bullets in the gun, and he fires, and it bullet went. He fired at this phone book that he had. Well, it was like several different phone books. So when he pulled the bullet out of the phone book, he compared it to the bullet that struck the woman, and it turns out it was the same exact match. So at the end of the story, you find out that it was actually him that murdered the woman, because the problem was this dude sleepwalked every night. So it wasn't an intentional murder. He killed her because he was sleepwalking. And I thought that was crazy. But I give this story, I give it an 8. It was pretty good. Not as good as the first two, but it was pretty good, I'm a sucker for stories like that. But anyway, moving on to our fourth story, A Joyful Noise. Now, before I start this one, I gotta say I'm not really a religious person. You know what I'm saying? But some stuff involving religion does interest me when it comes to stories and things like that. And this was one of them. So what happens is, in this story, now there's a few familiar faces in this story right here. And if you've seen the story, then you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? But in this story, what happens is it's about this church choir, and they have rehearsals every Thursday. And so the woman that was conducting the choir, she wasn't playing about them being on time because she was never late for a single required. She was never late for a single choir rehearsal ever for the past 10 years. So everybody was doing their own thing. You know what I'm saying? That next Thursday that was supposed to be there, everybody had problems. So when the choir when the woman that was conducting the choir, when she was trying to make her way there, it was a roadblock because a sinkhole had appeared from the weather, I guess from the day before, but she couldn't get through, so she had to go all the way around, and that was going to cause her to be late. So that was her issue. And then there was another younger woman in the choir. So she was on the phone talking to her homegirl, and she kept looking at the time, and she thought she had plenty of time, but then when she looked up, a little while later and saw the time again, it was still on the same time. So she realized that her clock stopped working. You know what I'm saying? So her homegirl told her it was 10 minutes to 7. And so she got up, panicking, and then that was pretty much her issue. Her clock stopped, so she lost track of time. And then you had the one guy. Now I gotta say, the one guy whose car wouldn't start. This dude, you ever seen the movie Trespass? If you've seen that movie, then he was one of the leaders of the group that was with Cube and Ice T and all of them. You know what I'm saying? Movie's pretty dope, yo. But what else was he in? I know he was in the episode of Everybody Hates Chris where he was he was showing Chris was in that karate class or whatever, and dude was showing them how to break somebody's arm or whatever. But then he was telling the kids not to use it. I don't know. That dude's funny, man. And he was also in Streets of Fire, by the way. You know what I mean? But anyway, his car wouldn't start. So that's what made him late. You know what I'm saying? That was his issue. And so the other two, there was other two, you know what I'm saying? The last two guys. One of the guys was waiting for the other guy to come pick him up. And this is how they did every Thursday, you know what I'm saying, for rehearsal. And so the guy finally showed up, and it was 10 minutes early. So when they got in the van, when the dude got in the van, they was on their way to the church. But next thing you know, he had 2 tire blowouts somehow. And that was their issue. So the thing is, by the time the woman finally made it to the church by catching a ride, you know what I'm saying? Everybody was already there standing in front of the church. You know what I'm saying? And they was looking up and they saw that the church blew up. It was a gas leak or something like that that caused the church to blow. And so nobody was in there. Nobody made it on time to even get in. By the time they got there, it already happened. So, in other words, the point of the story was that there was a higher entity, looking down and looking after them. You know what I'm saying? And so I like the story. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I'm not religious, but this story was pretty good to me. I give it a 10. I really did like this one. But moving on to the final story. It's called Hooded Chair. So it's about this rich asshole, you know what I'm saying, some spoiled kid who inherited this empire from his father, this $1 billion empire. So he had purchased this hooded chair. His thing was going all around the world looking for different, priceless relics and all of that. And then he found this chair. And so when the chair was delivered to him, the woman that pretty much purchased it for him, she worked for him or whatever, but you know what I'm saying? He sat down and she knew the urban legend about the chair, and so did he, but he didn't believe in it. You know what I'm saying? He thought it was a bunch of junk. So dude sat down in the chair, right? And he got up because he said the chair felt uncomfortable. But if you paid close attention before he got up, something happened. You know what I'm saying? So when he stood up, he told the woman that it was a little too uncomfortable. So, when the maid came in and all of that, right, to do a job, she was dusting the shelves and everything, and then she got a little too curious. So she decides to sit down in the chair. And she said the same thing. The chair was too uncomfortable. But again, before she got up, you could tell something happened. And so the next day, the guy, the rich asshole, he got a phone call. And we come to find out that his maid was killed, you know what I'm saying, trying to cross the street. And so the guy thought, he was starting to believe, but then he was still on the fence about whether it was because of the chair. Because he caught her sitting in the chair, the day before. But, he was still kind of on the fence about it. But what convinced him that the chair was cursed? One of his friends, came over to visit, and his friend sat in the chair. And so, not too long after that, his friend was killed in a plane crash. And so that's what did it. So now, one night, the guy, he had this axe, and he was about to take the chair apart. But his mistake was he had already sat in the chair. And so right before he struck the chair, he had a heart attack, and he fell out and died. And so that's how that story ended. And I can't even lie, yo. The way the dude was looking right before he destroyed the chair, that could be meme worthy, yo. I swear, it could be meme worthy. But anyway, I give that story also a 9. But I gotta say, man, this episode to me was one of the memorable episodes. You know what I'm saying? I enjoyed every single story. Like, especially when I watched it for the first time years ago. Like, I was glued. I was invested into this episode. So overall, this episode for me gets a 10 out of 10. And like I said, it tops the last few episodes I watched. But if you haven't seen this one, if you want to start, like, I know I said this the last time, but if you want a great start to this show, find episode 8, season 2. You know what I'm saying? It's pretty good. But anyway, if you're watching this on YouTube, give me a like, comment, and subscribe. I will definitely appreciate it. And I know I'm probably going to get some negative comments for the way I conduct these videos because I'm doing everything off the top of the head, which is fine with me. Hey, you watched the video, so I'm good with that. I appreciate y'all too. But anyway, I'm about to jump off of here, and I will talk to y'all later. Peace.
The feeling is mutual. Come in, take a seat, share your thoughts with each, and preach it when you speak, so we can share kinetic energy throughout the brainwaves. Keep us balanced out and all on the same stage.